Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be setting up monthly and weekly spreads for January. So grab your journal and plan along with me, or grab a drink, get cozy, and we'll chat for a bit. Please excuse any shaking in this footage. I guess I got too excited when I was coloring, which caused the camera to move a lot. The inspiration for this month's spread is a Garfield calendar I used to have. It was one of those day-to-day calendars that had a comic every day. I looked at various Garfield comics while working on this spread. I noticed a lot of green and purple used in the comics, which I tried to incorporate into this spread. I tried to replicate the font used on the cover of the Garfield books for my title. I had originally drawn a Garfield in his top right corner, but I decided I didn't like the look of it, so I just put these numbers instead, and I think it looks a lot simpler and cleaner than it originally did. January is always an odd month for me because I still feel like I'm living in the previous year. I'm writing 2021 on all of my papers, but I feel like it's still December. January is just December part 2, really. After spending 2 weeks on vacation, it takes a while to get back into a regular routine. It's been about a week and I still feel like I don't know what day it is. I don't feel like I get anything done until I'm in February, and then I actually feel like I'm in a new year. But then February goes by rather quickly, so it all just feels so fast to me. I remember being a kid and thinking the school year went by too slowly, and now as an adult, life goes by way too fast. This scene I'm recreating is just Garfield in his natural habitat, on the couch watching TV. I have to admit that Garfield and I actually have a lot in common. We both like watching TV, eating snacks, and making sarcastic remarks every now and then. I would say this image embodies my attitude during the month of January. Usually I spend my time indoors, wrapped in a blanket, watching movies. Even though I do live in California where it doesn't get that cold, I will try to stay as cozy and warm as possible. I actually checked the weather report this morning, and it's supposed to go up to 79 degrees this week. I always joke that California only gets cold about twice a year, and honestly, it's true. It's an unfortunate thing for me because I love wearing fancy coats. I have a closet full of beautiful coats I only get to wear about once a year. I am grateful for this weather, though. I think January can be an intimidating month to most people. There is this mindset that if you don't start the year off being productive, you set the tone for the rest of the year. I don't believe that. I believe if you want to make a real change in your life, you don't have to wait until January. I think the healthiest thing is to see January as any other month, rather than a starting point for where you want to go. Marking this month as a starting point sets the precedent that you are beginning from absolute zero, and that you have to build yourself up from that point. The reality is that we are not at absolute zero. We were not born yesterday. We are constantly progressing through life, and we can't ignore how far we've come thus far. If I look at my YouTube channel, for example, it looks as though I'm starting from zero, but the reality is that I have made videos in the past. The most important thing I've learned about the creative process is how much of it is just trial and error. You have to make mistakes and work that you're not proud of in order to improve. I'm not exactly proud of my older videos, which is why I've hidden them, but they did help me learn a lot about editing. In making those videos, not only did I learn about editing, but I learned about myself and what I genuinely want out of my content. I felt my older content was aimed towards getting views and being sensational, and I realized that I wanted to make content that was more of a representation of myself. I also felt like I was making videos for the sake of making them. My new outlook with making content is that I want to make things that I'm proud of and that can positively impact the people who view it. I've devoted most of my life to art, and I want to share the valuable lessons I've learned with the world. One thing I've learned is that art is something that isn't accessible to everyone, which is something I highly disagree with. That whole topic is a large discussion which I could have at a later time, but for now, I just want to say that the internet is a great tool that we have at our disposal. A tool that I plan to use a lot more this year. This page is for the content planner. Last year, I started my journey into content creation, and I found that I was spreading myself too thin. I was trying to post content onto all of my social media platforms, which I found difficult to do. I can see why companies hire people to post for them because it really is a full-time job. So my goal for this year is to focus on 2 social media platforms and try to upload the best content possible. I decided to keep this spread relatively simple since I'm just using it to quickly write down my ideas. I'm just doing some basic bubble letters with some fun colors. YouTube and Instagram are the 2 platforms I'm most comfortable on and I spend the most time on as a consumer. It made sense for me to make those the ones I focus on, considering how much time I was already spending on them. I would say Instagram is my favorite app for finding new artists to follow. I'm always scrolling through the Explore page and finding all kinds of great art in there. I know Instagram is big on Reels at the moment, which is something I need to get into the habit of making. I think if I can figure out some type of consistent posting schedule, it will be a lot easier for me to stick to this resolution. The habit tracker is actually a section I was pretty excited to work on. I've learned a lot about the science of habit through watching YouTubers like Matt D'Avella and reading books like The Power of Habit. The things I learned in that book were pretty interesting. One of the concepts explained in the book is how you can get rid of bad habits by replacing them with good habits. For example, a bad habit of mine is staring at my phone before going to bed. This causes me to go to bed later, which then causes me to sleep in, which in turn puts me in a bad mood for the day. In order to get rid of that habit, I will replace it with a good habit, which is reading before bed. I think writing down my habits and keeping track of them will help me stick with them long term. It will be good motivation to see this page filled out at the end of the month. This will also be used to track my social media posts. I do want to try to post on certain days of the week because that will make it easier for me to remember. A habit I really need to pick up this year is meal planning. As a kid, I remember when my mom would get mad at my siblings and I for not eating the food she bought. I didn't think much of it being a kid and all, but as an adult, I completely understand where she was coming from. Groceries are way more expensive than I thought they were growing up. I think meal planning will help prevent a lot of food waste and also keep me from spending time trying to figure out what's for dinner. The layout for this page is based off of the meal planner Liv B used in one of her videos. It's a rather simple layout, but I'm not really looking to do anything fancy with this page. The left column is to list the days of the week and what meals are being made. The right column is to list what ingredients are needed to cook these meals. For time purposes, I will only be showing 1 week of my weekly spread. The meal planner and weekly spreads will be repeated each week, so there's no reason to show the same spread over and over again. I decided to keep the weekly spread simple as well. I was struggling at first trying to figure out what size to make each day. After much trial and error, I settled for this size, which ended up making Saturday slightly smaller than the other days, but I'll figure it out. The purpose of my weekly spreads is to keep track of my daily to-do lists. I'm a big fan of the to-do list. It helps keep my thoughts organized, and it's satisfying to see things checked off at the end of the day. This is probably the most tedious part of the process, measuring everything out so it fits on the page. Working on this kind of makes me miss going to school. I remember they gave all the students free planners for the year. I always looked forward to receiving the planner and seeing what they added to it. Sometimes there were fun little facts in the planner, random things like, did you know there were active volcanoes on the moon when dinosaurs were alive? Sometimes I'd get distracted and read these facts instead of actually paying attention to class. There were some kids in my class that folded the pages into triangles, and I started to do it myself. There are so many strange things that kids did in school that I copied just because they were doing it. One thing was making bookmarks out of glue. The bookmarks didn't even turn out good, but I really wanted to do it for some reason. I guess it just looked like they were having fun doing it. So starting a brand new planner in January is kind of nostalgic for me. Since I'm no longer in school and I don't get to start one in August or September, I do this instead. So here is how my journal turned out. I had a lot of fun making these spreads and sharing them with all of you. Let me know in the comments, what are some of your goals for 2021? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.